Some places were never meant to be investigated. But tonight, we're going to talk about one of them. If you enjoy true horror and unexplained mysteries, consider subscribing. Now, let's begin. I shouldn't be recording this. That's the first thing they tell you. If something goes wrong, you log it. You report it. You don't keep personal recordings. You don't leave messages that aren't meant for the system. But tonight doesn't feel like it belongs in the system. And I don't think anyone else should hear this first. The radio has been quiet for too long. Not dead. Not broken. Just quiet in a way radios aren't supposed to be. Usually there's something. A breath of static. A distant hiss. A reminder that the line is open. Tonight there's nothing. My name is Aaron Cole. I've been a park ranger here for 11 years. Same national forest. Same district boundaries. Same long patrol routes that loop through the dark and come back empty. I know the night sounds. I know when the forest is resting. And I know when it's listening. Right now. It's listening. I was halfway through my patrol when the silence settled in. Engine idling. Headlights off, like we're trained to do. The truck felt smaller without the light. Trees surrounded the road. Tall. Packed tight. Their tops disappeared into fog that hadn't been there an hour earlier. I checked my watch. 11:42 p.m. That's when the radio clicked. Not static. Not a call tone. Just a click. Like someone pressed the transmit button and changed their mind. I didn't touch the mic. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. Long enough for your thoughts to get loud. Long enough to start counting your own breathing. Then a voice came through. Low. Too close to the microphone. Like the speaker was afraid to breathe too hard. Aaron, if anyone's on this channel. I knew that voice. Don't log this. It was Ranger Mitchell. Same shift rotation as me. Same training class, years back. Assigned to North Ridge tonight. Routine patrol. Trail checks. Weather readings. Nothing risky. Nothing remote. But his voice didn't sound like a man doing routine work. It sounded like someone trying not to be overheard. If you're hearing this, he said, I need you to listen carefully. My hand hovered over the radio. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't how check-ins worked. And then the part that made my stomach drop. Mitchell was already overdue. 3 hours past his last scheduled call. Dispatch had flagged it as a delayed check-in. Nothing official yet. No alerts. But according to the system, Mitchell wasn't transmitting. And yet I was hearing him. Alive. Breathing. Too close. If this cuts out, he said, it's not the radio. The transmission stopped. No static. No sign-off. Just silence again. The kind that presses in on your ears. The kind that makes you realize how far you are from help. I sat there longer than I should have. Listening. Waiting. counting the seconds between my breaths. The radio stayed quiet. Too quiet. Unnaturally quiet. If you're hearing this now, and you've never heard a ranger sound like that, you might want to stay, because some calls don't come through the right channels, and some voices aren't supposed to be heard twice. I shut off the engine. The ticking metal faded. I stayed seated a moment longer, hand still on the wheel. The forest closed in. And then I finally stepped out into the dark. I drove the patrol truck up the North Ridge Road. Fog had settled deeper than it was earlier. Low clouds pressing against the treetops. The headlights cut just enough to see the curve ahead. Nothing else. The forest was quiet. Almost too quiet. The radio sat on the dashboard. Silent. I left it off. I didn't want to hear static. I didn't want to hear anything. North Ridge is supposed to be boring. That's why they send us there. No hikers after dark. No campfires. Nothing that moves. But I know better. There's always something listening. Always someone or something watching. I remembered Mitchell's last words. They're between my breaths. I shivered. The memory echoed in the cab. The truck felt smaller. The seats too close. The steering wheel heavier than it should be. I reached the first turnout. Marker 7. I stopped. Lights off. I listened. Wind in the pines. Branches rubbing against each other. A distant groan of something large. Or maybe just the wind. I couldn't tell. And that made it worse. I resumed driving slowly. Every turn I anticipated the wrong sound. Every shadow felt alive. And every silence stretched too long. The second marker came into view. I killed the engine again. Fog curling over the edge of the road. I could see my breath in the air. And then a distant light, like a reflection, moving between the trees. I squinted. Nothing. It vanished before I could identify it. The old fire tower came next. Decommissioned 10 years ago. Its metal frame rising above the fog. I remembered climbing it during training. The stairs felt unstable even then. Now, in the dark, it was a jagged silhouette. I parked and sat. The radio clicked softly. I didn't touch it. Not yet. Then his voice came through. Low. Whispering. I stopped walking, but they kept going. I froze. Every nerve on alert. I tried to respond, but my hand hovered above the mic. Training didn't cover this. It shouldn't exist. I stepped out of the truck. Fog pressed against my legs. Each step slowed by the damp. The smell of wet pine needles filled the air. I imagined the trees bending closer. Listening. The voice continued. Everything sounds wrong. The forest, it's not the same. I took another step. Branches scraped my jacket. A sudden snap of a twig. I spun, flashlight swinging. Nothing. I reached the base of the fire tower. Stairs creaking under my weight. Each step stretched a beat too long. I imagined him trapped somewhere above, or below, or not anywhere at all. The radio hissed again. Static this time. Then his whisper. I can see the tower, but I didn't climb it. I stopped climbing. Paused. Felt the fog settle against my face. I tried to hear any other sound. Nothing but the wind. I pressed the mic. Mitchell. Are you there? No answer. The forest pressed closer. Shadows stretching toward me. The stairs seemed endless. And the tower, abandoned, waiting. I stepped back. Hands shaking. The truck headlights barely cut through the fog. I could hear my own breathing, but it didn't match my steps. Each exhale delayed. Each heartbeat wrong. I took a seat on the cold metal stairs. And waited. I waited for the radio to speak again. I waited for the sound of someone else's footsteps. I waited for anything that could explain why the forest felt alive. Minutes passed. Or maybe hours. Time had no meaning. Only the fog, the trees, and the endless silence. I finally pressed the mic again. Nothing. The tower loomed above. Empty. Silent. But I could feel them somewhere. And I could feel them. The air tasted metallic. The fog thickened. And I realized that nothing on this ridge was ordinary anymore. I leaned back. Listened. And the forest waited with me. The fire tower loomed over the ridge like a shadow frozen in time. Its metal frame black against the fog. Its stairs disappearing into mist. I parked the truck at the base. Engine off. Headlights dimmed. The fog hugged the ground. I could see my breath swirl in front of me. Everything smelled damp. Everything sounded wrong. The radio clicked. I didn't touch it. Then the voice came again. Faint. Shaky. It climbed the stairs after me, Mitchell whispered. I froze. Every step I wanted to take felt heavier. The fog thickened, wrapping around my legs. It was as though the forest itself was holding me back. I remembered the training. Check the logs. Secure the vehicle. Call dispatch. But the words felt hollow in the cold night air. I stepped toward the tower. Feet crunching over wet pine needles. Branches scraping my jacket. The wind pushing fog into my eyes. The stairs creaked as I climbed. Metal groaning beneath my weight. Each step a single beat in a silent symphony. And each beat felt wrong. Too slow. Too deliberate. Halfway up, I stopped. The radio hissed again. Mitchell's voice. I can see the forest, but it's not the same forest. I pressed the mic. Mitchell. Where are you? No answer. Only static. A low hum, stretching, metallic. I climbed again. The tower swayed slightly in the wind. Or maybe it was me imagining it. At the top, I reached the landing. Empty. No sign of him. No footprints. Only fog curling in the corners. I held my flashlight over the platform. Metal stairs below twisted into darkness. I could hear the fog pressing against the tower, and the wind whispering through the beams. A cold sense settled over me, like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like someone, or something, was watching from just beyond visibility. The radio crackled again. This time, it wasn't Mitchell. Just breath. Slow. Measured. Too close. I stepped back, heart racing. Flashed the light across the fog. Nothing. And yet, I could feel the presence. Something moving between the trees. Something that didn't belong. I thought about turning back. Descending the stairs slowly, carefully. But the landing beneath me seemed to stretch farther than it should. The staircase below had no end. I stepped forward. Light shaking. Fog swirling. And the forest below felt hollow. I pressed the mic again. Nothing. The radio clicked one final time. A whisper. I'm here. No name. No direction. Just that word. I backed away from the edge. Fog curling against my boots. Heart thudding. Each breath loud in my ears. The tower was empty. Yet it wasn't. I descended slowly. Every step deliberate. Listening. Waiting for a sound that might not exist. At the bottom, I stood. Truck still parked in fog. Everything still. Too still. And then I realized. The night hadn't ended. The forest had only begun. I climbed in. Headlights on dim. Engine started. And I drove slowly down the ridge. Every shadow in the trees felt alive. Every silence heavy. Every step of the tires pressed against fog. The radio stayed off. I didn't want it on. I didn't want to hear anything. But I knew I had heard too much already. And the forest knew it too. I didn't sleep after the North Ridge patrol. I sat in the truck. Fog pressing against the windows. Radio silent. Headlights off. The forest didn't move. Not really. But it waited. Every sound I imagined was amplified. Every shadow held a shape I couldn't see. By 1:15 a.m., I convinced myself to start driving. Slowly. Every mile deliberate. Every turn through the trees like walking on a tightrope. The radio clicked once. Soft. Faint. I froze. Then. A scream. Low at first. Distant. Impossible to locate. It didn't echo like a person screaming. It lingered. Curling around the fog. Filling the gaps between the trees. I gripped the steering wheel. Light shaking. Every instinct screaming at me to leave. The scream grew. Closer. Then stopped. Just silence. I wanted to call dispatch. I wanted to report it. I wanted it to be rational. But the radio stayed silent. Empty. As if listening, but not answering. I took the ridge road down slower than I should have. Branches scraped the truck. Fog thickened. I couldn't see the road edges. The yellow lines faded into nothing. And then I saw it. A figure. At the edge of the headlights. Still. Watching. I blinked. It was gone. But the sense of being observed remained. Pressing. Weightless. Impossible to ignore. The scream returned. From a different direction. Multiple directions. Surrounding me. The truck felt smaller. The forest felt taller. The fog denser. I pressed the mic. Mitchell, are you there? Nothing. Only the scream. I tried to convince myself it was wildlife. Or another ranger. But the tone was wrong. Not animal. Not human. Impossible. I parked at the edge of a clearing. Fog curling around the trees. Lights off. I listened. The scream stopped. And then. A whisper. Not over the radio. Not in the truck. Right outside. So close I could hear it through the metal. Do not leave. I stayed seated. Hands gripping the wheel. Breathing shallow. Every sense alert. The forest pressed in. The fog swirled. The air smelled metallic. I could feel every heartbeat echoing through the cab. I tried to start the engine. Nothing. Truck silent. Headlights dim. I stepped out. Fog clung to my clothes. Each footstep muffled. The forest waiting. The scream never returned. But the whisper remained. The radio clicked once. Static. Then silence. I realized something. No one would come. No one could see me. And the forest didn't want me to leave. I took a deep breath. And waited. Because the scream never ended.